over in Goshen on Sunday, April 12th at 1 p.m. is going to be another Melt Ice in Orange County rally. A lot of us have, I think we've all done the victory lap at this point of preventing DHS and ICE for now from setting up over in the village of Chester. As I keep trying to remind people, that fight isn't over. The official statement provided by the Department of Homeland Security to the Monroe Gazette is that at this time, being the key words, they have no new concentration camps. They didn't use those words. I'm using those words to announce, but that doesn't mean that they've necessarily abandoned the village of Chester. So a lot of us all did a victory lap, and now I think it's time to sort of refocus. And I'm not the only one because the local DSA chapter and a number of great organizations throughout our part of New York are organizing a rally. It's Melt Ice in Orange County, and again, it's Sunday, April 12th at 1 p.m. at the Village Green on South Church Street and Main Street in Goshen. So I hope to see you all there. I have with me a couple of guests, but only one of them will be speaking. Noel, would you like to take a moment just to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, I'm Noelle. I'm the Health Justice Community Organizer with NILPI, New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. And for years, since about 2017, we've been working to advocate for improved medical care in detention centers in New York State. And then after repeated efforts to advocate for reform, we realized ultimately there will never be adequate care in these detention centers and are now advocating for the closure of these jails so that folks can receive care in their communities.
Now, when you say adequate care, can you just explain a little bit about what that means when it comes to um, the people in the facility? What are they expected to get versus what are they not getting?
They should be getting the care that they would be receiving otherwise if they weren't detained. ICE has also provided its own national detention standards for medical care, and so this is another standard of care that should be adhered to. But in practice, people are experiencing critical gaps of care. This includes lack of follow-up care for conditions that they experienced prior to entering detention, lack of proper medication, sometimes not receiving medication at all, lack of nutrition or language access, and also incorrect treatment. And we can go deeper into this as well. But overall, when people are requesting care, ICE has showed repeatedly that they are not adhering to the own standards that they provide.
Yeah, and there's just published reports now about the number of people that have been killed while in detention at facilities across the country that are operated by DHS and ICE. And we've had another guest on previously who represents a legal organization where she was saying, Orange County Jail in particular, there's questions of people not necessarily getting blankets, for example, to or food, for example, that would be adequate for their dietary restrictions. And so, we've definitely been paying attention of issues at Orange County Jail in Goshen and some of the issues surrounding ICE. So just so people who are listening to this understand, there is about and this isn't the exact number, but there's about 470 total inmates at Orange County Jail, and about 170 of them are officially ICE detainees. And how it's supposed to work is they're supposed to be kept in a separate wing, although reporting from the New York Times has indicated that at least on one occasion, documented from the Times, someone that was supposed to be in what's called the ice wing was actually in the general population, which is not how that's supposed to work. So, Noel, I want to talk to you a little bit about the report that came out, Deny Care, Deny Dignity. This is something that was circulated in signal groups as we were organizing over what was proposed for Chester, and I think it kind of got lost in the shuffle. So I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit about the findings of the report.
Sure, I can share a bit of the background on how we started developing this report. This is our third report documenting the conditions of medical neglect in detention centers in New York State, specifically Orange County Jail. For this report, this captured referrals that we received between January 2022 and May 2024. During this time, we received overall 92 referrals to our medical providers network. 37 of these referrals were for New Yorkers across the country. 19 of these were for clients detained in New York, and these were the individuals profiled in the report. And to share a bit more on our methodology for analyzing the medical data, the medical letters serve as the primary data source for this report. So we receive requests for medical legal advocacy for legal health assessments to our medical providers network. And upon receiving these requests for referrals, we'll partner with volunteers for MPN to conduct medical records reviews, to also evaluate the adequacy of care provided, and then to identify any violations of established medical standards. We then work with these doctors who will synthesize their findings into advocacy letters that the legal teams then use to support their clients' cases. And so these are the letters we're referring to that serve as a primary data source for the report. And for these 19 individuals, they each had critical gaps in their medical care while detained by ICE. And so we also worked with healthcare professionals to analyze the data from these medical letters, and we found patterns that we ended up categorizing to 4 different types of failures of medical care, but they also overlap. Some examples we'll share is when people come into OCJ, they will not receive follow-up care for conditions they had prior to OCJ. They'll either have care that was supposed to be planned but was never completed, care that was provided only after significant delays, and sometimes care is never planned at all. What this looks like is, for example, someone has come in diagnosed with glaucoma in one of his eyes, and he had already been prescribed daily eye drops to manage pressure and to prevent vision loss. But once he was detained, he was denied access to his medication, and that puts him at risk of irreversible optic nerve damage and blindness. He was also withheld lidocaine or medication for post-dental extraction pain, and in another instance, he was denied hemorrhoid treatment. So these are just overlaps of a denial of medical care. We've also seen people being given really insufficient pain medication treatment for example, for chronic back pain, someone was just given a mattress. Another individual was denied anesthesia for a tooth extraction, which is a very severe withholding of adequate
Yeah,
medication care.
absolutely.
We've also seen folks being denied necessary tooth extractions or receiving a botched filling procedure, which resulted in facial pain and swelling, or they'll be experiencing chronic pain and they're just prescribed over-the-counter medication when they really need chronic pain management. And we also see this in mental health care plans as well. Another individual was suffering from major depressive disorder with psychotic features, but he was prescribed an antidepressant dosage that was way below the recommended therapeutic level. And that can lead to an escalation of psychotic episodes, suicidal ideation, or complete functional impairment. And these are patterns. Um, Many times, folks will receive multiple instances or have experienced multiple instances of denial of medication or improper treatment.
Yeah, it's sort of astounding to me when you compound that with sometimes the lack of or inadequate access to legal counsel or the reports of people that were supposed to be seen by an attorney that then got shipped off in the dead of night without anyone knowing about it. Let me ask you, because OCJ in particular has a history, right? Like it has a history of uh, previously there was a hunger strike there.
Mhm.
The ACLU, New York City ACLU, has previously documented some of the issues at OCJ. Did that play a role in selecting OCJ as the subject for this report?
We selected OCJ because the greatest number of referrals came to us from OCJ. It's the primary detention center with lapses in medical care where we're receiving referrals, unfortunately.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
So, and this is just my opinion. It doesn't sound like Steve Newhouse, who was the county executive, um, ever got the message, right? In terms of properly taking care of the prison population here. As I think I mentioned this before we started recording, that the Monroe Gazette has asked people to send ice scrapers
Mhm.
to his office to encourage him to cancel the contract between Orange County and ICE DHS, which is, I've been told from members of the legislature, only he can terminate the agreement specifically. So it has to come from him. Um, Let me ask, because these findings are alarming. Like, it's, anytime anyone is denied basic medical care, it's a denial of their human rights. What what steps were taken after the report was completed to share this with Orange County?
We reached out to organizations based in Orange County to share our report since local officials are more likely to listen to folks that are advocating based within Orange County. And we've reached out to, alongside Dignity Not Detention Coalition, have reached out to a couple folks. From what we've been hearing through our work with the coalition, there's been some interest and concern, but more the position that further investigation is needed before action can be taken. We've also reached out to some outlets and have been able to speak out about our report in a few with some local media.
And what's the response been like from the county itself in terms of the report? Because I remember looking through this, and it came after we had already talking to a number of organizations that were reporting similar issues, and I had also mentioned the historical problems at OCJ. But what did the county say in terms of this report?
That I am not too sure of.
Well, I can tell you from what we saw, and, and I have to preface this, and I know we talked about it before I started recording, but so for people listening, the Monroe Gazette has documented a number of instances where we've submitted FOIL requests to Orange County. Orange County then delays them repeatedly, and we've caught County Attorney Golden, stating that there are no records for some of these requests. Only, lo and behold, for us to have some of the records that he claims does not exist. We also pressed him quite a bit on, and this is probably getting into the weeds, but there's a court case that's going on concerning Gonzaga Park in Orange County, and claims made by the village of South Bloom Grove that Rick Golden was present at a meeting, which he publicly claims he's not. So this is a long way of saying that we have concerns about statements that come from Orange County, statements that come from County Executive Newhouse. We've documented him specifically on issues of immigration lying. For example, during his county address one year, he told the story of, for some reason, he was at the border. For whatever reason, a county executive in upstate New York is at the southwestern border. He claimed that he was down there and a man crossed that allegedly had enough fentanyl on him, and this is a direct quote, to kill everyone in New York City. Of course, that wasn't true, but that's just to give people listening a kind of the context of what the response from the county when we do try to get answers from them on issues about OCJ or issues just about general operations. And the one thing I did see was Golden kind of dismissing this report, saying that the findings weren't true. But then the Monroe Gazette did reach out to him and said, "Okay, well, if you're disputing this report that was put out, surely you've issued some kind of response, or you've talked to the people at NYLPI about their findings. Has there been any communication with Rick Golden since the report came out?"
No, they have not reached out to us.
Yeah, that's I figured. I mean, I was kind of teeing you up for that. Um, yeah, but that's just it's unfortunate and it's frustrating. And so that kind of brings me to, I mentioned the Melt Ice in Orange County rally, which again is Sunday, April 12th at 1 p.m. at the Village Green, which is South Church Street and Main Street in Goshen. So if people are interested in having Orange County Executive Steve Newhouse, who again is the only person who can do this, terminate the agreement between Orange County and DHS ICE to house detainees at Orange County Jail, they should come out. Um, Let me ask you, after the report came out, has there still been investigations or exploration as to what's going on in Orange County Jail? Like, is it still something that you guys are keeping track of?
Yes, in the sense that we continue to receive referrals from advocates representing clients detained in Orange County Jail. We received referral as recently as last week. Um,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
What can people do? And this is really next to last question for you. What can people do who are listening to this who are interested? I mean, obviously, we'll post to the report. We'll make sure people can see it when we run the transcript for this. So we'll make sure people are aware of it. But what can people do to help the work that you do and to also help the detainees at Orange County Jail?
I would encourage folks to join the groups that are organizing locally in Orange County to fight back for the closure of Orange County Jail. This includes the Dignity Not Detention Coalition, which is in contact with orgs in Orange County. The coalition is also running a hotline in Orange County Jail where folks can reach out. I would also encourage folks to try to visit folks who are detained, to join the letter writing events that the coalition hosts, to join the phone zaps as well, to join in actions, sharing about the issue to the elected officials, continuing to raise the issue. I would say that really these detention centers were and are designed to isolate people from community and to make them feel like they're alone and that people have forgotten about them. And so what we can do as community is to show up and to let them know that we're still fighting for them and that we haven't forgotten and to continue to reach out and to try to fight for the passage of legislation that would terminate contracts with Orange County Jail. Because ultimately, while reforms would be great, while oversight and accountability would be great, the only way to really ensure that people don't suffer is to terminate these jails. And we can do that through passing dignity not detention and also related legislation like New York for All, which would and
Yes.
collaboration with between local government and ICE.
Yeah, and just for people listening, I keep talking about the big five bills to protect us from the Trump regime. It's New York for All, it's the New York Melt Act, it's the New York Dignity Not Detention Act, it's the Privacy Act, and it's the Health Act. And currently, our state senator James G. Skoufis does not support New York for All. He does support the Melt Act, although I think that seems to be reluctant on his part. And our state assemblymen, for people that are listening to this in our typical coverage region, which is Monroe Woodbury, your Assemblyman Chris Ekis, who's a Democrat, does not support any of these bills. And then if you live in one part of Monroe, you are unfortunately represented by Carl Brabenec, who is one of the few Republicans who also does not support any of these bills. So yeah, I can't. It's frustrating to me that January 7th was the first day in a state where we have a Democratic trifecta. They did not pass any of these bills, including New York for All. So I'm glad that you mentioned that because
That's very
uh,
concerning.
it's infuriating to me. Like we've had all this time to pass these bills, and as we record this, none of those bills have been passed. Although it looks like the Melt Act will survive in some form. Let me ask you my last question. So specifically about NYLPI, what if people are listening to this and they're learning about you for the first time? How can they support the work that you do?
I would say get organized. The work that we do is because we're fighting for the health and safety of our communities in New York, but any of the policies or reform that we're fighting for can only be passed when our communities want it and are also pressuring our representatives to pass these bills. And the more we're organized, the more we build collective power, the more effective our work can be at NOBI.
Yeah, I agree. We've been telling people to organize local signal groups with their neighbors. Um, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think is worth mentioning?
I would say, considering the any concerns or anticipating any concerns about the report and its data not being sufficient to potentially reveal any patterns at Orange County Jail, I would say that the experiences of 19 people should be enough, and even if one person was experiencing this should already be cause for some kind of urgency for investigation or accountability. And so I would hope that representatives with the ability to terminate the contract would see these experiences and for this to be enough. I'm not sure how many people how many people would be needed to establish a pattern is my question. I think the experiences of 19 people should already be sufficient.
Yeah, I mean, our philosophy is that everybody counts.
Exactly.
if it's one person that has a problem, the problem should be addressed. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
But I appreciate all the work that you're doing documenting this, not letting the pressure up, and making sure that this report gets out there and does the work that it needs to do.
Well, thank you. Let me put in one more plug before we go. So again, Melt Ice in Orange County. It's a rally to end Orange County's contract with ICE for the ICE detention wing at Orange County Jail. There's over 100 people that are held currently there. It's a significant chunk of the OCJ population. So it's incredible to me that we are holding so many people there, often without them receiving their due process or adequate access to attorneys and to basic medical needs. So if you are as outraged as I am, it's Sunday, April 12th at 1 p.m. at the Village Green. That's South Church Street and Main Street in Goshen. We'll post a link for people who are interested in attending. And Noel, thank you so much. Stick around for just a second. I'm going to press stop here, but thank you for joining us.